Hello everybody and welcome back to Jaltest VLOGs. Today we're going to go about reading fault codes and clearing fault codes within Jaltest Diagnostics. So the first thing that we're going to see on our screen is right after we do the vehicle system scan, and it shows us all the systems that are on our vehicle. It also shows you all the fault codes that are present. This gives you an overview of the whole vehicle and what's wrong with it before connecting to the specific systems. In the case that we suggest that some of the codes might be inactive, we can go here to OEM Fault Codes and we can clear all the fault codes present. It will ask us to identify whatever system hasn't been identified yet, so if it were Detroit or generic, we'd select here. And then after that, it gives you the options of read OEM fault codes, clear and read OEM fault codes, and then read, clear, and read. We usually do this one and then proceed to see what is active on the system. Our second option is going to go through our active fault codes button. So here we see in red when there's active codes and in yellow when they're inactive, or there's some that are inactive. So we're going to click directly and it'll show you the faults stored in the memory, and we could go and read them, process them, and do all the troubleshooting from here. The other option would be the triage, which is expanding the fault codes. We'd be able to see all the fault codes present. They're going to show us active, inactive, or others on each one of the systems. That way we know which are the most important and we see everything. This allows us to explain to the customer how they might have codes in other systems, not only the one that they're bringing it for. And then the third option is what we're going to follow through, which is selecting the system and connecting directly to it. Once we select the system, we're going from the generic on the vehicle, the overall overview, to the specifics on the engine system. So here on the top, we're going to see how the VIN number is recorded, the type of vehicle, the engine, the manufacturer, and the type. So this is always going to guide us to where we are. And then we're going to click directly on the read fault codes. So we go here and we're going to see that same image that we saw before. First thing that we're going to see on the left, and this is how we always recommend to go through them from left to right, is the status of the code. You have a bottom, the legend, so you have active fault codes, non-active fault codes, and others. So just to understand a little bit more, active fault codes are obviously when they're present. You can't carry out certain functions until they're fixed, can't turn off certain lights until they're fixed. Inactive fault codes are codes that have come up in the past and that have been solved or that have gone away but haven't been erased from the ECM memory. And then we have that third one, which is the yellow one, which is others. Others tells us that the code has come up in some cases less than 3 times, so the ECM doesn't consider it to be an active code, but it's not an inactive code either. So it's warning you that something's wrong, but it's not necessarily active. We also have that situation with after treatment parts where you can't erase the code until a certain number of cycles, or for example with Caterpillar or some other manufacturers that require a factory password in order to get around them. Okay. Second element that we're going to see here are the numbers. So this is a proprietary information that we're talking about, and it's the same one that you're going to get from the manufacturer. We'll continue with the amount of repetitions that we have here, and then a description of what's wrong with the code. So up to here, a little bit what everybody does, they give you a code, they give you a number, and then a description. So Jaltest is going to go to that next level, and it's going to give you these 3 elements where we're going to go one by one. We're going to start off with show freeze frame data. Freeze frame data will tell us the priority, date and time, warning state, so on. You can have up to 20 something different values based on the component that's generating the code, and you could go with the driver and it'll help you with a time and a place. So that's the first dimension on approaching a fault code repair. After that, we're going to go to help and components about the fault. Important here, it's going to tell you the effect that it generates on the system, and here's where the proprietary data that we spoke about is relevant. It links us to the 2 specific components, in this case the sensor, temperature sensor of the exhaust after and before the catalytic converter. So now we know that it's either this component or this one, but most of us don't know exactly what that looks like. So we're going to click on see information about the component, and it'll show us exactly what we're looking for. This is a real image, and then it also shows you the pinouts A and B. After that, we have to figure out where it's at. So here is the exact location of these components in case that we have to go about and change them. Not only this, but we also put in technical information, timing torques, and then we've introduced this new option within the info online module, which is the component replacement guides. You're going to be able to hyperlink and it'll take you direct to that guide, and you can see it on the notes before how we have another vlog explaining this. On this side as well, you can hyperlink to the measurements and see if they fit in with what we're giving you beforehand. And now the last step is linking that to the wiring diagram. So we know the problem, we know what component generated it, we know what it looks like and where it's at, so let's figure out how it's connected with the rest of the systems. we're going to have options for different wiring diagrams or different operating diagrams. So it's going to link the ECM to all the components that are available. And we're going to look at it now, how this component, the SCR temperature sensor, is going to appear highlighted directly, where we're going to hover over it and have an image. It'll show us the pins linked to the ECM, and then the ECM will show us how they're all interrelated. You can look in more details on the vlog related to diagrams to see how this works. And then the last part, if all of this information is not sufficient for the repair, we include the info online, which is our fault code troubleshooting. That means a step-by-step procedure on how to go about repairing a fault. And this is going to be associated to this fault, 3165. So here we have the first option, which is going to be add your customized troubleshooting. You can click on add customized troubleshooting and then create a name, add the steps, and follow on with the procedure. Let's say that you have a certain way of repairing this fault that you prefer over ours. That's perfectly fine. You can include it, and then it'll be integrated. Every time this code comes up, you'll have your own repair procedure. After that, we're going to have this option here in the bottom. It's going to say show check marks in the procedure steps. So we're going to be able to click on it, and every time that we go about one of these steps, it's going to go in through there. So in essence, it tells you what the procedure is on how to go about repairing it step by step, with different information, different hyperlinks, and how it associates to it. You could also do certain calibrations or actions, and there's a specific vlog on info online that will give you the step-by-step on troubleshooting. To finish up, this is our approach on reading codes, the proprietary info, and then the description, and then step 1, 2, and 3 on how to go about the repair. Once you're finished with this, you obviously have to delete the codes. So we have this button right here, which is our trash can for clearing fault codes. You'd be able to click on clear fault codes, and all of those would be cleared. If that weren't enough and you had any questions on this, you could also personalize the explanations. So you click on here, and it allows you to enter customized help. Whatever you type in will be stored for future reference. Okay. And then the last part would be, we would also be able to introduce comments about these fault codes. If there's something specific or there's a note that we want to introduce, you can put in a comment here, and that will be saved to the report. And that's our approach on reading fault codes. And this would be the approach on reading fault codes, repairing fault codes, and clearing fault codes with Jaltest Diagnostics. Thank you for your time, and see you in the next vlogs.